Today is the 10th of August, 2009. We're in Margaretville, New York at the American Legion Post. My name is Wayne Clark. I'm with the New York State Military Museum in Saratoga Springs. Sir, for the record, would you please state your full name and your date and place of birth?
Ted Wiesenthal. I was born August 24th, 1923. Born in New York City.
Mm-hmm. Did you attend school in New York City?
I attended school in New York City, Morris High School in the Bronx, which is a famous school now because of Colin Powell went to that school.
And what year did you graduate?
About 1942.
Okay. Do you remember where you were and what your reaction was when you heard about the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
Well, I was a child, really. I was a kid. When I came out of the movies, I had heard people were talking about Pearl Harbor. And nobody even knew where Pearl Harbor was. But that's the first time I felt that the country was threatened.
Did you see any change in your life at that point?
Well, I wanted to enlist. And I think I was around 15 or 16, and I think I wanted to go right away, so I enlisted when I was 17. They didn't take me until I was 18.
And you enlisted in the Marine Corps?
I enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Why did you pick the Marine Corps?
I felt it was a elite group, and I felt that they could do the most damage at that time to the Japanese.
Did you have any relatives that were in the service, or
No.
World War I?
No.
Okay. Did you have any brothers that went into the service too?
No, I was just a kid from the Bronx who was alone and didn't know anybody. Some of my friends were going into the service. They were drafted and so forth.
Was that your first time away from home when you went away to basic?
Yes, it was.
And whereabouts did you go for basic?
Paris Island. That was quite a place. That's quite a place. I've been there. I've been there since, and it seems like even the facilities have changed where they're much more humane. We had a sand field that we did our maneuvers on and marching. Now it's all concrete, and Paris Island is a rough place.
How were your DIs? Were they pretty rough on you?
DIs were like people I never knew. They erased your mind. They changed your personality. I would have been nobody had I not been in the Marine Corps. The time that I spent in boot camp and the rest of the time in the Marine Corps changed my life. So.
All right. Once you completed your boot camp, where did you go next?
Well, then we started to, they gave everybody different tests, aptitude tests, IQ tests, and they sent me to, I wanted to go overseas with my training group, but they sent me to radar school. And
Where was that school?
North Carolina.
Okay.
It could have been in Jacksonville, Florida. I don't know. I think it was North Carolina.
And what did you learn there?
Well, we learned the Morse code and how to take apart a radio, put it back together, and so forth. It was really minimal training, but the Morse code was the reason, because we were going to be in a plane, and I didn't know at the time that they were training us to be in bombers. So I didn't even know that the Marine Corps had bombers. So anyway, the top 10% got a stripe, and the top man got an additional stripe. So I finished there. I was a corporal at 18. I was a Marine corporal at 18.
Wow.
It was shocking to me.
And whereabouts did you go next at that point?
Then we went to gunnery school, aerial gunnery school, where we trained on flatbed railroad cars, shooting different objects they had put in the air. And out of the gunnery school, the top person in gunnery school got a stripe. So I was lucky that I got that stripe. So now I was a Marine Corps sergeant at 18. It was kind of shocking to me. I was almost 19.
And how was the pay at that point?
Oh, nobody cared for pay. Yeah, I didn't have any money when I went in. It was just coming right out of the Depression. And the pay was like $20 a month. Maybe more when I was a sergeant. It seemed like a lot of money, but just put it away. Didn't do anything with it.
Okay. And once you completed that gunnery school, what happened next?
Well, then they started to form a squadron, a bombing squadron, and we were assigned to flight crews in B-25s, and that's where we organized as a squadron. My recollection is the whole squadron had 12 planes, and a very tight group, and we were anxious to go overseas.
Now, whereabouts did that form up, that squadron?
In Florida, Naval Station in Jacksonville, Florida.
Did you, before you went overseas, did you do a lot of training together?
Oh, yeah. Oh, we trained in dropping bombs in Lake Okeechobee. And one interesting thing was that Hollywood Beach, before we were involved in the training of with the bombers, we were trained on Hollywood Beach, and we did invasions of Hollywood Beach. There was nobody there. You could shoot live ammunition on Hollywood Beach. Today it's condominiums are all over the place.
Yeah. Okay. So you were assigned as a crewman on a B-25.
Radio gunner. Shoot out of the waist guns, the sides of the plane.
Now, how large was the crew on the B-25?
About 5 people, sometimes a little more. We had a navigator. We had the pilot, the co-pilot, a navigator, a bombardier. We had a turret gunner, a tail gunner, and the waist gunner, radar race gunners.
Now, did you always fly with the same group?
Yes. Yeah.
Same crew?
Yeah.
Okay, and you had the same airplane, or did that change?
That varied. There were only 12, and so we took up whatever was available. They needed parts. They didn't have parts. They replaced the parts from other planes, whatever.
Okay. All right. And where did you go from there?
Well, then we went overseas, and
where did you leave out of?
We left out of San Francisco and went to Hawaii. And
now, did you go by ship?
No, we flew.
You flew?
We flew the bombers.
Okay.
And so it was an interesting flight. And we finally landed where we went to Bougainville. We finally landed where we were going to be, which was Emiru Island. Emireau. 2 miles by 6. That was our airfield. They had just finished, the CBs had just finished putting a coral airfield, and they built some rudimentary tents, and that's where we were.
And that was where you lived?
That was where we lived. That's where the planes, we had the ground crew, everything was there. We had what we had to do there, we were right outside of Rabaul. There was New Ireland was the area, and Rabaul was a fortified Japanese stronghold. And we had to keep 24-hour planes over Rabaul so that they couldn't take their planes off. And they couldn't restock that thing. That was going to be their, as we understood it, their invasion place to go to Australia. And so we stopped them there and kept bombing them there.
Okay. Now, how often did you fly?
We flew almost every day, every other day. Missions, we had what we called airstrikes. I had 52 airstrikes, what they popularly called missions, that was in combat. we had other flights where we took up, my pilot was the test pilot for the squadron, where if a plane came back and was not in such great shape, he would help diagnose what was wrong with it by taking the radio man, which is me, and himself up and fly it around and see what it was. So we came back with several disaster planes.
Now, were you ever under attack by the Japanese?
On the island?
Yeah.
No, we kept
You kept them.
we kept them from coming, and we were bombing all the shipping and the shore installations in the area, all the way up to Truck. Now, Truck was a very well fortified area, which was almost over the limit of what our planes could go. They had to strip the planes down. We were able to make one run over the enemy shipping and then pull out and come back. And it was like, my recollection, it was like 4 hours one way, 4 hours back. And the plane, with the bombs and all the ammunition, really couldn't take 8 hours of flight, but we just made it back.
Were you ever under attack in the air by the,
Oh, yeah.
by the
Oh, yeah.
Japanese?
Well, when you were bombing and strafing the ships, they were shooting back, and occasionally you would see a plane coming towards you, and it's hard to say who shot it down because 12 planes were shooting at the same time, and everybody claimed they shot it down. I know I did. I don't know what they did.
Okay. Now, back on the island, did you have any problems with tropical diseases, dengue fever, malaria?
To my knowledge, nobody ever got sick. We were a healthy group. A healthy group of guys.
Any snakes or land
There
crabs?
were strange reptiles that used to kind of jump on you when you went off to the latrine at night. They would land on your shoulders and zip off. There was one night when I was sitting in my tent. Everybody else had gone to the movie, and as I was writing a letter, I saw a bug that was about 7 or 8 inches long, which I never saw before. Was the color of a cooked lobster, and it looked somewhat like that. And so, well, I jumped up and threw the table over, and then I started to look for it, and I couldn't find it. I told everybody, and we all looked. They thought I was crazy. Years later, I went to the Museum of Natural History and looked at the bugs of the South Pacific, and I identified what that was. And there it was. I wasn't crazy.
Did you have any entertainment besides the movies, any USO shows or
No.
anything like
We
that?
were really an outpost nowhere. We were miles from anything, and really a small outfit compared to outfits that had entertainment. I didn't see anybody.
What was your chow like?
I always thought the food was good. They did the best they could. Certain things were not great. That all the bread had bugs in it. I'm sure people have told you that.
Yeah.
And they all had bugs. In the first few days, nobody ate it, but after that, they weren't big. So they ate it. And the liver was not great. They never should have shipped liver. Liver doesn't keep well.
No. Do you recall the death of President Roosevelt?
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, we were kind of isolated and far, and you didn't find out right away. Nobody brought you the news on a daily basis, so it was like I was shocked and and sorry, but nobody knew who Truman was.
Did you ever get any radio broadcasts from like Tokyo Rose or?
No,
Anyone
I don't
else?
think we were on that
Frequent?
circuit. We were not. I don't think we were a threat to them in terms of us going anywhere. They knew what we were doing. We were containing them right there at Rabaul, New Britain, Bougainville, that whole area in the what they call the Bismarck Archipelago. And we were in that area, and nobody, I don't think they thought that we were going to go further than that, and so there was no need for us to have propaganda of surrendering or whatever.
So you were there when Japan surrendered?
We were there, and that news hit right away.
Mm-hmm.
And because we were preparing, we thought that everybody is going for the invasion of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
We were on our island with the invasion of the Philippines, and we were in the Philippines right after the invasion, and had our bombers. We landed there for a few days. I don't know what, but I guess the purpose was to see whether we were needed,
Mm-hmm.
and we were not.
Mhm.
So there was no what could I say? Once we heard that the bomb was dropped, obviously we were thrilled and delighted.
Mhm.
Today when they
Yeah.
talk about we should not have done it, we lost a lot of men in the area that we were. Several of my best friends, and we were not anxious to go to
Mm-hmm.
bombing Japan.
Now, what about the atomic bomb? Had you heard anything about it at all? Did you have any idea about the devastation?
Oh yeah, we heard that it was the end of the war, and because they destroyed these cities,
Mm-hmm.
and we did our minor destruction. When we hit a ship and it blew up, that was like big time.
Mm-hmm.
But to drop a bomb and wipe out the whole area and the cause for the war, that seemed like good news to us.
Mm-hmm. When the war ended, was there a lot of celebration?
Oh, yeah. We celebrated as best we could. It's a bunch of guys. We didn't have much liquor. We had beer
Mm-hmm.
and cigars for everybody. It was a good thing,
Uh-huh.
good feeling.
Uh-huh. Now, once the war ended, how long did you stay on the island before you were shipped back home?
The war ended in
Was-
1945.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the date was that they dropped the bomb and when they surrendered.
Yeah, it was in August.
August. I think I was discharged by November.
Okay.
Home and out and gone.
So you had enough points to...
Oh, I
To
had
be-
52 missions. I had the Air Medal.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 battle stars on my air crew wings. I think I was only supposed to have 25 missions.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave us 52.
Mm-hmm.
50 were with my captain and co-pilot. I had 50 missions, and then they had replacements, but they didn't have replacements for me. So they asked me would I go up with the 2 new pilots. My old pilots were McConnell and Boyson.
Mm-hmm.
The name of these pilots was Busby and Woolley. I figured if I'm ever going to get killed, it's now. First of all, push your luck at 50 missions. I didn't need 2 more.
Mm-hmm.
So they asked me would I go, and being a Marine, you never said no.
Mm-hmm.
I went. Had no trouble.
Okay. So did you go home by ship?
Yeah. It took us 3 or 4 days to get when we went, and it took like a month to get home.
Whereabouts were you discharged from? Was it on the West Coast?
Yeah, I think it was San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And once you were discharged, you came back to...
I came back. I didn't know that that they had surrendered. I came back on VJ night. I was discharged before the war was over.
Oh, okay.
I came back to New York City on VJ night, and I didn't know what all the celebration was about. I had my sea bag. They left me off at Manhattan, and I had to get a ride up to the Bronx. I couldn't get a cab because New York City was a madhouse.
Yeah.
Finally, a cab driver took pity on me and said, "Where do you want to go?" And I told him where, and he delivered me up to the Bronx. And I came in, and my family was celebrating. They didn't know I was coming home. And I walked into the house. Needless to say, they were quite surprised. And they said, "How come I was there?" I said, "Well, the war's over." So it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, did you make use of the GI Bill?
I went to school. I got a Bachelor of Science, a master's degree, and a PhD degree. PhD I paid mostly by myself, but I got the bachelor's and the master's through the GI Bill.
And what did you get your degree in?
School administration and
Mm-hmm.
actually elementary school.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
became a teacher, and then after a little while I became an assistant principal, then a principal, then the superintendent of schools of district in New York City, District 10, which had 40 schools, 32,000 kids,
Mm-hmm.
and was quite interesting. And I did that for about 14 years, and then I went to Fordham as a professor, as a associate professor in the Graduate School of Education.
Now, do you think you would have gone on to college had it not been for the GI Bill?
Never. That's why I say the Marine Corps changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
The Marine Corps took a kid who knew nothing, had very little academic training, didn't know what his skills were, had no focus, and I came out, I was a focused individual, changed, I knew what I wanted to do, and I wasn't going to waste any opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So that was why I say the Marine Corps changed me.
Mm-hmm. Did you stay in contact with anyone you served with?
No, because it was, we did our job. We were not, it was not a social thing other than before we went overseas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were overseas for a long time, like a year and something like that, a year and 2-3 months. And there was no socializing, you know, and everybody did, you had to get up in the morning, you did your training, you did this, you did that. There was no big social life except the movies, and everything. Went home and wrote letters or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no big thing, and a couple of my friends were, my best friend was shot down. Apparently he was missing in action with the plane, and we looked for it. And so he's the only one I would have been in contact with.
Mm-hmm.
I could not go home and see his parents
Mm-hmm.
because he was dead and I was alive.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look back on it, I should have done that. I couldn't do it because I was still young.
Mm-hmm. So you never attended any reunions? Or?
There was no reunions. Nobody ever contacted me. There was no reunion of the squadron. No. It's just like everybody wanted to get home and get back to their, you know, get back to their work and do their jobs.
Mm-hmm. And did you join any veterans organizations at all?
I joined the American Veteran Committee for like a year, whatever. It was not my kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't join anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know you already alluded to this, but how do you think your time in the service changed or affected your life?
Made me a whole different person.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say how, but obviously I achieved these things of being a superintendent and being, and then I took discipline to get the PhD degree. It took discipline to run a school district, you know. So, and the discipline is not in a bad sense, but it helps you focus on what it is that you want, your goals. You don't give up. You stick with it. And one thing that I have always had with me, and that I have kept wherever I go, it's the Marine Corps emblem from my uniform.
Oh.
And whenever
Do you want to hold that up?
whenever I get the feeling that things are a little bit too much, you know, that things are not going well, I take this, it's in my pocket, I just put my hand on it, and I realize things could have been worse.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. And how long have you been retired for?
Well, see, I retired when I was 70, I guess about 15 years. Yeah. But I worked until I was 70 at Fordham.
And how did you end up in Margaretville?
Well, I am and was a trout fisherman. And I always had a house in Phoenicia. And where I used to fish, it was right on the stream. And so I always expected to retire up here, so I built a house near Margaretville in the mountains. Very nice.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your interview.
All right, you're welcome.